Hey there. So it's Louisa Munson from Feel Good Astrology, and I wanted to welcome you to this show. And it's inspired by Colleen Murphy, who was listening to yesterday's pilot show. And she says, I believe the divine feminine is in process of coming and will be at least even with the outdated and time to go ruling masculine energy. Do monthly astrology patterns go into this at all? Curious. So stay with me to find out a little bit more. I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about tomorrow's astrology. So let me know where you're listening in from. I've got a few technical issues here today, but I'm hoping we can carry on with the show. So let me know where you're listening from so I can welcome you, and let's take it from there. First of all, I've got a hello from Tim Freestone. Hello, let's hear what you have to say. That's really cool. Hey, welcome. Where are you from, Tim? I've not come across you before. Texas, really cool. Thank you so much. And Colleen's back here. Hey, Louisa. Hey, Colleen. Nice to meet you again. So, yeah, tomorrow, let me just start by bringing up tomorrow's chart, because it's pretty cool. We got Shannon Renee Brown here as well. She's also joining us from Texas with a lovely big howdy. How you doing, Shannon? It's really nice to see you. You've changed your name on Facebook, on YouTube. Are you watching? You're watching on my Facebook. Okay, that's cool. So let's have a look at tomorrow's astrology, just to get going with this. Have to excuse me being all fingers and thumbs. The computer's been going a little bit bonkers. So anyway, what we've got for tomorrow, as far as I can see, is we've got this advancing moon coming closer to Pluto. So this energy between moon and Pluto is going to be raising the bar internally for us. You know, we're feeling a lot more emotional than usual. So this is actually going to be the first time that the moon has connected with Pluto in the new sign of Aquarius. You know, Pluto just changed signs in the last couple of weeks. And it's really intense because the whole theme of Pluto is all about control, and Aquarius is all about freedom and independence. And so there's a little bit of a fight going on. There's this feeling of, I want to be quirky, I want to be myself. How do I express myself? And the desire to try and control the situation so that people think certain things about us. So it's a real sort of conundrum. At the same time as that's going on, we've also got this advancing Venus is coming into a more and more perfect square with Saturn. And Venus and Saturn, when they're in a square, they're really kind of picking up on our insecurities. You know, we feel very tight in our bodies. We don't feel very joyful. We don't really feel very comfortable in ourselves. So I see a lot of that coming on. And that is definitely one of the big challenges. Another challenge for tomorrow, the 13th of April, is the fact that we've got the moon here in a square to Pluto, in a square to Jupiter. And that's going to raise up issues of pride. So how I see it playing out is that the last couple of days have been really quite big in exposing us to magnificence and our magnitude and all the potentials that exist for us. And so as we're heading into tomorrow, there's this feeling of, oh my goodness, have I overdone it? Have I got the energy to do this? And it's like, how can I step back? Can I step back and save face, or do I just have to gird my loins and get on with it? So yeah, there's a lot of that. The flows for tomorrow, I think, are in the lovely sextile that we've got between the moon and Neptune. So there's a lovely feeling of ease when we're daydreaming. There's that feeling of ease when we can kind of be a bit romantic about life. So if you're feeling tense, go outside, look at the plants, look at the bees. You know, we saw a toad creeping up on us in the night when we were sat out having a glass of wine last night. And it's just such a lovely sort of intimacy. So get intimate, you know, really feel how you can be intimate with every other living being. And that doesn't have to be icky as it was when I was talking about the Dalai Lama sucking a child's tongue just a couple of days ago, or the other way around, asking the child to suck his tongue. Different kind of intimacy we're talking about here. Last thing I want to share with you, and that was that I pulled a tarot card to represent tomorrow. And what really came up for me was this card, the Judgment. Now, I pulled it from the Mythic Tarot deck, and in the Mythic Tarot, it's really about taking action immediately about things that are really necessary to do, the things that maybe we're a bit afraid to do, the things that we're holding back on because we've got secret judgments about them. So if there's something like that coming up for you, get it done tomorrow. Really do get it done. So anyway, that's just a little bit of the predictions. Let's just go back to the comments and then we'll continue. So where are we? So we've got Tim Freestone saying, where are you from? I'm actually from the UK, based in Portugal. This is a picture of where we live. I'm not there right now, obviously, but it's just a few minutes down the road. That's the Atlantic Ocean from the Portuguese seaside. So that's where I am. We've got Owen Lloyd Martin joining us from the north of Portugal. Hey, Owen, thanks for joining me. And he's saying, do what? I don't know what that's quite in reference to, Tim, but let us know. That's all really, really cool. So anyway, yesterday, with our conversation yesterday, Colleen was saying, I believe the divine feminine is in the process of coming and will be at least even with the outdated and time to go ruling masculine energy, which is kind of interesting because we've got a few guys listening in and I'm pretty sure they've got quite a bit of masculine energy themselves. So guys, let us know. Do you think your energy is outdated? What do you think might need to be changed or tweaked? And how are you experiencing the divine feminine? It's a funny thing, actually, because over the last, I have to say over the last 3 years or so, I've been really checking into myself in terms of, how do I feel about the changing roles of women and men and all of the different narratives that we hear about in mainstream media? And how are things changing? I've felt very uncomfortable at times in terms of these things. And when I was thinking about Colleen's energy, her question yesterday, I was thinking, I'm really comfortable talking about the astrology of it. But when it comes to who am I as a woman, how do I feel as a woman, what do I think of a woman's role is, I get feelings of discomfort. I don't know if any of you guys are feeling that yourselves. I'd love to know. But I'm really open to holding this as a bit of an open inquiry, which is a kind of feminine way of processing it. Strange thing is, Colleen's question or her comment from yesterday, it wasn't alone. I saw something that really caught my eye first thing at the start of the day, which I'd like to just share with you now. And then I'll tell you a bit about the astrology of gender, I guess, or the gender within astrology. So this is what I saw yesterday, which kind of caught my eye, and I'd love to know what you think about it. So, and this was written by Raveen Ashina and shared with my friend Rob Burns on social media. So it says, I came across an online debate today where women were saying that they wish men would just tell the truth. Someone commented, what a refreshing change it would be for a man to actually speak the truth. I asked the question, are you willing to hear their truth? And you can imagine some of the replies that I had that one. I can only imagine that was, I imagine there were people like baying for blood in the chat room or in the comments. Can a man tell about his shadows and struggle with conditioned temptation without calling him weak, a pervert, or internalizing what he's trying to say? Can you hold space for a man to bleed out, reveal his shadow side, and ask for help where he feels he needs support? Can you handle his own raw emotions? Can you handle him pulling you up on your own bullshit? So many women say they want an honest man, but then slam him down the moment he speaks his truth. So many men have been raised by women who subjected them to guilt tactics, using tears to manipulate, using their powerful feminine emotions and intuition as a weapon against them, reminding them that they have failed them. So many men are afraid of speaking their truth. So, divine feminine, you play a role in helping hold space for them to feel safe enough and accepted enough to be truthful. You want an honest man? Be prepared to sit with him in both his shadow and his light. You want no secrets between you? Then give him space to communicate. You ask for an honest man? You better be sure you can really handle his truth. I don't know what it was about that, but I absolutely loved it. I'd love to know what you're thinking. So let's just see what is coming up. So Tim is saying we're equal as humans go. Yeah, I hold that. I absolutely hold that true. And here's my husband now, Mr. Carl Munson. Here now, got distracted. Thank you for being here. If a man cannot tell the truth, he's not a man. And Carl is saying, I saw this. Honest emotion is a contradiction in terms. Why do you say that? I'm curious to know. So what came up as I was considering Colleen's request, and also thinking in terms of my own experiences, is I wanted to show you how it all shows up astrologically. So as you might know, in terms of astrology, a lot of the books and the study of it was done by men back in the ancient times. You know, it was all the scholars, it was anyone that could read and write, and at that time it was mainly the men, as far as we know. I should premise this with, I'm a massive I'd like to say truther, conspiracy theorist, whatever you want to call it. I like to investigate things. So, you know, I'm saying these things as if they're the truth, but I've never actually been back to the inception of astrology. I can't tell you. I can't even vouch for the reality of the planets. I know we see them, allegedly, these pictures from NASA, but until I actually go and touch something, I don't necessarily know it's an empirical truth to me. So anyway, according to astrological history, men were the ones that were defining what astrology is and how it comes about. And we have what are known as sort of masculine oriented planets and then the feminine oriented planets. Now these are all symbols, and you should know the names. That's the sun, we've got Mercury, we've got Mars, which you should recognize. That's the masculine, you know, the universal masculine symbol. Then we've got Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And then the feminines, there's just Venus and the moon. And so, you know, obviously when they were sort of designated, their sort of personality types, their field of reference were, you know, the masculine ones were slightly more thrusting, the feminine ones were slightly more yielding. And so like if you're looking at women in a chart, you might look at the moon and Venus. If you're looking at men, you might look at Mars and the sun in particular. If you're looking, there are a few like sort of crossovers. One of the things that I do is I add in some goddess asteroids to even up the balance. So for instance, in terms of this sort of intuitive truth, I use this asteroid here called Vesta that looks like a V or a coffee cup with some smoke coming from it. That's an energy that represents the truth that we feel in our gut, that sort of like gut knowing. And that's a kind of feminine way of thinking, allegedly. And I'll show you a little infographic that I think sort of shows you the different way of thinking. There's Juno that looks a bit like a chimney sweep symbol, and that's about the kind of dedication and commitment that comes in a sort of compassionate and loving way. So that's ascribed as a feminine. She's also the goddess of marriage. And we've got Pallas Athena that looks like a diamond on a cross. That's about feminine, cool, calm logic, as opposed to a more structural logic that might be represented by Saturn. And then we've got Ceres that looks like a claw, or Captain Hook's hand, and that's about Mother Nature. On the other side, I also use Chiron. So there are lots of different planetary energies, and we've also got different signs as well. So the air signs and the fire signs are known as being the masculine signs, and then we've got the feminine signs, which are the water and earth signs. So you can see the names of those signs there. And the fire and air signs are known as the ones that are thrusting. They're the ones that go out, they come out of their experience, they expand, and they want to sort of connect quite forcibly. You know, they're causing connections. And then you've got the more yin ones. It's a bit like the yin yang, whatever it's called. I can't remember the doodah. You can tell me. The big circle with the S in it, you know, with the black and the white, you know, the yin and the yang. That is what it's called, isn't it? So we've got the masculine and the feminine working together. It is more weighted towards the male experience, astrologically, which is kind of funny because most of the people that come to me for astrology are women. Most of the people that I know that are astrologers, there's a lot of women. The men seem to get to the top, the women not so much, but they are the bulk of the astrologers from my perspective and from when I was doing my training. Let's just see what's coming in. Carl saying emotions are a distortion. So it's possible to be honest that I'm emotional. Yet if I'm in my emotions, run by them, that is not true to life. We've also got Tim saying, so that's that's why the moon makes men crazy. I like that. The funny thing is, all of these different planets with their different energies and everything, they can be expressed very negatively and very positively. It's a bit like, people talk about the divine feminine, and I saw this amazing interview today, and I can't remember for the life of me what it's called, even though I've written it down a few times. I think it's... I haven't got it. I'll put it in the show notes. But it was an amazing interview by Aubrey Marcus, and he was interviewing Kelly Brogan, and they were talking about the divine feminine, or where feminism has been used as a form of activism, and how, is that still divine feminism? Is it raising the male? It was a really sort of intense and insightful interview, where we're actually looking at how the female voice, when it's risen too much, especially when it's activated through a place of sacrifice, through a place of being victimized, it becomes almost demonic. And it reminded me very much of an old Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode, which was an episode in which all the mums got activated about some missing children. They were told children had gone missing. They were sort of hyped up in this emotional frenzy, and then the mums became militarized. They become activated. They became absolutely they became like women on steroids, or like, men going into battle. They were cutting down people, they were cutting into things, censoring things. And this kind of police state erupted within this program. And I think it's worthy of watching now, because some of the themes that are coming up are really, really prescient. I'm not saying that children don't go missing and bad things don't happen, but when people are whipped into a frenzy based on emotion, like real sort of heartfelt emotion, especially the stuff that women, respond to, like the protection of children and stuff, and where they feel like the man has let them down, then all of a sudden this very, very terse woman comes up. So there are all sorts of different aspects in that. And I'm really quite excited to sort of explore them. Iberian FM phone in. Emotions are a distortion. That's Carl writing in again. He's come up twice. Colleen saying, I guess I wasn't specific enough. So sorry. I didn't mean gender roles. I mean the feminine divine energy and masculine energy affecting the planet and becoming more imbalanced. Well, you know what? I want to show you actually where the main balance is at the moment. The outer planets. So we've got Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. They're the three slowest moving planets. They're the ones that really determine how our society kind of shapes itself. They're the ones that are known as being the generational seed points. So each generation, like if we look at the millennials charts, we can see the positions of, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, and Chiron, and it builds a picture. And right now, where all of these outer planets are, I mean, Pluto's just moved into Aquarius, but they've been in the feminine sign for ages and ages. And whilst that feels good, there is this idea that there's a lot changing, there's a lot transforming. I think there's a marked imbalance, and that's what I'd like to have a look at. We've also got, yes, learning to balance our energies, masculine and feminine, and we are learning right now, absolutely. Shannon saying it's lunchtime, catch the rest later. Love this conversation. I've been engaging with my divine feminine goddess for the last few years. I know you have, Shannon, and she's absolutely marvelous. Tim saying the he, she, it is exactly that shit. What was wrought in the DNA on humankind is the way it be. You know what? There is something about being comfortable in the skin you're in. I really feel for people that don't feel like that. I also see that there are lots of people that are suddenly turning, and I wonder how that's just occurring. I'm aware of a few people that have been, right from word go, have known they're in the wrong body or in the wrong gender, or they're not expressed in the way that works for them. And yet right now it seems there's a huge turning point, and and lots of people are turning at the same time, which to me implies that maybe there's something more to it than just biology. Maybe there's a lot of persuasion, a lot of, I don't know, this. I don't think people all just change at the same time. I'm sure there's lots of factors playing into it. But yeah, I understand that. Tim, have you seen the program, What is a Woman? I really quite like that. Owen saying, in my opinion, life is about balance. So for the man to embrace the divine feminine, he has to accept and embrace it also. You know what? That is a beautiful point, Owen. And in the interview that I'm mentioning, and I will link below with Aubrey Marcus, one of the things that Kelly Brogan really talks about is how we need to face ourselves. And, there are, she's an eminent psychotherapist, and she's looking at those parts of us that we put onto other people, and those parts of us, like the other, that we project. And it's very, very easy to other ourselves and everyone else when we use gender as a term, as a context. And so it's like, when things go wrong, it's like, that's a boy thing, or that's a girl thing. And that's very, very simplistic. But what she's saying is, the good and the bad exist within both genders. And until we can see where we're being it ourselves and how we do it, until we realize that we're all playing the same game, we can't fully accept ourselves in our entireties. And she's also talking about family constellation therapy, which I think is really, really excellent at helping you integrate parts of yourself that you've kind of left by the wayside, parts that have been a bit too painful. And she really spoke from the position of, being somebody who's a feminist for many, many years, and then started to get these kind of really weird feelings like, is this really healthy? Is this really helping me? Is identifying with my full gender and a list of characteristics and then fighting on behalf of my gender, is that really where I want to go? And is that actually really creating a healing space? I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to throw it open to a bit of silliness in a minute, because I do want to have a look at a little bit of spiritual mischief making. Colleen's saying Indigenous peoples worldwide have always had many genders. I've heard that. Funny thing is, and I don't know if you've seen the film What is a Woman? And obviously it was made with the bias of the person that made it as well. But he interviewed people from all sorts of places, lots of different universities, lots of different doctors, and then went to some Indigenous cultures to ask about their different genders. And I think you have to watch it to find out what comes up from it. It's fascinating. And then Tim saying, well, then you're not a normal human. I don't know what that responds to, but I'm sure it's fits in. So anyway, let's park this for a moment, because I just want to have a quick look at something that's caught my eye, which is a new astrology themed sandal collection, just to keep it a little bit real, and just to show just how mental the rest of the world is. There's all sorts of different things going on in the world right now, isn't there? So let's just have a look at that. Who thought we would ever see astrological themed sandals? Caught my eye and I was like, oh my flipping God. Whatever. So they've got different sandals for whichever star sign you are. And it even puts in, a little bit about who you are, like you're loyal, patient, and grateful. That's given the colors. Boy, oh boy. They've really used astrology to market their things. Pretty sandals. I think they'd fall off my feet. I don't know what you think. Anyway, back to the debate. So let's just have a look at this chart here. So this chart, if you can see at the bottom end, I've got these highlighted circles, and they're showing where the outer planets are. So you've got the symbol of the P, that's Pluto, right on the cusp between, you can see the green symbol, that's for Capricorn, and an Aquarian symbol, that's the orange symbol. This is all roughly about 7 o'clock. Then if you look roughly at 6 o'clock, you'll see the symbol for Saturn that looks like an H. and that's in a blue circle. And then you've got Neptune alongside it, which looks like a trident, again in a blue circle. And then you've got Uranus here in the sign of Taurus. Now, these are all in slightly feminine signs, and they're more yielding. Now, if I just talk about them a little bit, you'll get a feeling as to what's going on. Like Neptune Pisces, Neptune is a planet that is absolutely about illusion, and it is absolutely about hang on one sec. Where's it gone? Need to get that off. It's absolutely also about the feeling of creating an unboundaried mess. You know, Neptune is all about mixing things up and creating drama. And it's also about higher love, and it's also about sharing, and it's also about creating a merge or creating a way that we lose ourselves. And it's in the sign of Pisces, and it went in I think in 2011 into the sign of Pisces, just really as social media was starting to take off. And so we've got this kind of murky, slightly sexual, very creative, very interesting energy going into Pisces, which is like this place of a massive melting pot where there's no boundaries and there's no conventions. And so there's this energy of anything goes, and it's ultimate creativity. And it's like, how can we lose ourselves? How can we distract ourselves? How can we lie to ourselves? It's not necessarily a really sort of positive thing having Neptune in the sign of Pisces. I think it's really confused a lot of debates, you know, as to how we express ourselves. Then we've got Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And, you know, Uranus is about us being spontaneous and us taking a risk and us creating change. And actually what's going on in the sign of Taurus is it's undermining every single thing that we've ever grown up with, all of our little like support systems, which Taurus represents, all of our fundamental building blocks are being destabilized. Now, I'm all for a bit of destabilization. Don't get me wrong. I think they do need to be a bit innovated, but it's like the gloves are off and some of our stabilizers are a bit wonky. And then we've had Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, which again is a very sort of feminine sign. And it's also known for corporatocracy. It's known for the big business. And so things have been really changing in a corporate way. And when you look at these three things together, to me, like Taurus is absolutely about the family and about the community. And it looks like families and communities are being destabilized. Media and celebrity and all things glamorous are like anything goes. And then there's this very, very strong corporate sort of agenda brought in by Pluto. So I think anything that we actually know, like, first of all, I think consciousness has got to a stage where we're like, what do we actually know? Like Neptune also represents consciousness. So does Uranus. And in their two positions, it's like, wow, where do we go from here? How do we make sense of it? So I think this is something to talk about another day. I'd love to know what you'd like me to explore tomorrow. If there's some spiritual news you want on top of the forecast. I'm going to have to cut this short now because I need to go and feed my husband and also my children. Anyway, this was in my feed. Nick Cave's early punk music energy was all about fucking with people. He told me, how do you fuck with people in 2023? You go to church and you be a conservative. I like that. That's actually true, because you know what? You know, like we can't actually get any more outrageous. I don't think life can actually get any more crazy than it currently seems to be. It just really appears that everything has been completely turned on its head. And whereas, you know, we have all sorts of different activism, and we have all sorts of different political groups fighting for the rights of females, or fighting for the rights of this, or fighting for the rights of that. And they're supposedly looking for peace. The way that people are fighting right now, rather than going into a debate, they're actually sort of advocating for fights. It's really funny, actually, when you look on both sides of the equation, you often, or I'm finding as I'm experiencing it, that everybody's sort of playing the same games. You know, lots of people in their own ways are asking for information to be censored, which is very much, I think, a bit of a female thing when we can't quite express ourselves, and we feel bad about expressing ourselves, or we struggle to articulate where we're going in a way that maybe a man or a male mind can, then, you know, there is this debate that gets censored, it gets shut down. It's like, don't do that, I can't cope with it, you know, and the emotionalism comes on. I think that goes back right back to Carl's comment early on, in terms of, where is it? Crikey, so emotions are a distortion, you know. And when I think about my own experience, you know, when I'm being emotional, it is because I can't cope, but sometimes I, you know, if I'm to hold my hand up, there will be some element of I'm not comfortable, I don't feel like I can do this, and let's see if I can get myself a bit of extra wriggle room. Last few comments and then I'm going to go. So would love to see the astrology of the great turnings. Okay, I'll have a look at that. Each generational persona unleashes a new era called a turning, lasting around 20 to 25 years, which is a new social, political, and economical climate mood exists. They are part of a larger cyclical, don't even know what that word is. Anyway, I'm sure they are, and I will look at it. Tim is just saying the only way to life is in the power of the universe, on some formal religion. Okay. Well, thanks so much for your comments today. And I'll get back to you tomorrow with some other thoughts. Until then, take care, enjoy yourself, and watch out for that growing sense of the moon in a conjunction with Pluto. Boy, is it a deep feeling. Anyway, take care. See you soon. Bye for now.